17 years. I mean, just think about that for a second.
It's a lifetime in motorsport.
Right. In the relentless, adapt or die world of factory trials manufacturing, going 17 years without releasing a completely new chassis and engine architecture, it isn't just a drought. It's an absolute ice age.
Yeah, usually when a major constructor goes quiet for that long, you just assume the worst.
Exactly. You assume they've hit like an insurmountable engineering wall, or maybe their R&D budget just completely dried up.
Or they just lost the arms race because, the developmental cycle for elite trials machinery operates on these razor-thin margins.
It's all about fractions of a millimeter.
Exactly. You're constantly hunting for that slight adjustment in the center of gravity just to shave a single penalty point off a rider's scorecard.
Yeah.
So to halt that evolutionary process, to just freeze the core blueprint for nearly 2 decades while everyone else is relentlessly iterating it, defies every conventional strategy.
Totally defies it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why March 2026 is going to go down in history. Because the Beta Factory team didn't just break their 17-year silence, they shattered it.
They dropped a seismic shockwave on the entire trials landscape.
A goosebump-inducing shockwave. Jaime Busto, the absolute prodigy, the guy who has basically defied the laws of physics since he was a toddler, has made a completely unexpected transfer to Beta.
It's huge news.
But that's really only half the story, because the machine he's sitting on, the result of that 17-year silent incubation, is a completely new model.
Yeah.
And the name stamped on the side of that crankcase, it's Syncro.
The Beta SINCRO. When that press release hit, the collective gasp across the community was just palpable.
Oh, I bet.
Because Syncro, that specific concept of absolute intuitive synchronization, isn't just some marketing buzzword they pulled out of thin air.
Right. It's a very specific term.
It's the exact terminology that people have used to describe Jaime Busto's utterly unique biomechanical interface with motorcycles since his earliest days in northern Spain.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we have a truly fascinating piece of source material driving today's deep dive.
We do.
It's an excerpt titled Chapter 1, Birth and the Awakening of a Prodigy, the Basque Winds, and the First Syncro.
Such a great title.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore this impossible, miraculous coincidence. We need to figure out what happens when the relentless march of mechanical engineering collides with a human being whose neuromotor system seems perfectly calibrated for a machine that didn't even exist yet.
It's a profound convergence. We're looking at a scenario where the line between the rider's central nervous system and the machine's telemetry data essentially vanishes.
Wow.
Yeah, this isn't just an athlete signing a lucrative contract to ride a fast bike. This is about a highly specific set of flex characteristics and torque curves waiting for the only biological entity capable of maximizing them.
Okay, but I need to push back hard on this narrative right out of the gate.
Sure.
Because I refuse to buy into the mysticism of the press release.
Yeah.
Look, it's a beautiful poetic idea, right? That Beta halted a multi-million-dollar R&D pipeline for 17 years because they were waiting for a toddler in the Basque Country to grow up and claim his rightful steed.
It sounds like King Arthur pulling Excalibur from the stone.
Exactly. It's brilliant marketing spin, but it's physically impossible. You and I both know how ruthless factory teams are.
Oh, absolutely.
So strip away the poetry for me for a second. What was the actual tangible engineering bottleneck? Like, what were they failing to engineer over those 17 years that they only finally figured out now, just in time to slap the Syncro badge on it?
What's fascinating here is that the reality is actually far more compelling than the marketing spin.
Okay, lay it on me.
The bottleneck was the paradox of modern trials engineering, the conflict between chassis rigidity and kinetic energy transfer. For 17 years, Beta, like everyone else, was hitting a wall.
What kind of wall?
Well, if you make the chromoly steel frame too stiff, the bike becomes like a scalpel. Incredibly precise, but it violently deflects off the jagged, irregular rocks we see in modern sections.
So it just bounces off.
Exactly. The tire loses its contact patch, the rider loses traction, and bam, they take a penalty.
Right, because in trials, for you listening who might not know the absolute granular mechanics, the suspension isn't just there to absorb bumps.
No, not at all.
Like a vital tool for generating lift. You compress the suspension to load kinetic energy and then use the rebound to launch a 70-kilogram motorcycle up, like a 2-meter vertical rock face.
Precisely. But if you make the chassis too soft to absorb those deflections and maintain that contact patch, well, A frame absorbs the kinetic energy during that crucial compression phase.
Oh, I see. It gets mushy.
Yeah, the energy you need to launch the bike dissipates into the flexing metal instead of driving the rear wheel. So for 17 years, Beta's engineers were essentially trapped mathematically.
They couldn't find the algorithmic sweet spot.
Right. The exact torsional rigidity that allowed a high-inertia two-stroke engine to feel weightless during a vertical leap while still maintaining micromillimeter precision on loose terrain.
That sounds impossible to engineer.
They basically needed a chassis that could breathe with the terrain but snap back to absolute rigidity the millisecond the rider demanded vertical thrust.
So they weren't waiting for Jaime. They were trapped in an engineering paradox, trying to build a chassis that possessed an almost biological adaptability.
Yes.
They were trying to build a machine capable of, well, synchro.
Exactly. They were attempting to engineer mechanical intuition. And what is so staggering about the events of March 2026 is that when they finally cracked the code, when they finalized the geometry and the variable wall thickness of the frame tubes, the resulting machine possessed a frequency of response that perfectly mirrored the intuitive frequency of only one man on the planet.
This is where the concept of the synchro rate comes in, right?
Right.
Because the telemetry data we're seeing is just mind-blowing.
It really is.
When you watch Jaime on the new Beta SINCRO, you aren't seeing the usual break-in period. I mean, we all know what it looks like when a top-tier rider switches factories.
Yeah, they struggle at first.
Even the greats, they spend the first 6 months fighting the new geometry. They mistime the clutch dump on a zap, or they lose the front end on tight off-camber turns because the rake and trail are just slightly different.
But Jaime's synchronization rate with this machine is instant. It's overwhelming.
It's like the eradication of latency.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. In typical human-machine interaction, there's always a micro-lag.
Right.
The terrain changes, the chassis reacts, the tactile feedback travels through the foot pegs to the rider's central nervous system, the brain processes the shift, and then the rider inputs a muscular correction.
And that loop takes milliseconds.
But what we observe with Jaime on the Beta SINCRO is the apparent elimination of that processing loop entirely.
It's as if the bike's specific flex characteristics perfectly anticipate his biomechanical inputs. Is it possible for a piece of engineering, a machine of metal and fuel, to possess a soul that waits for a specific human?
Well, what's fascinating here is that in the world of elite trials riding, at this specific level, the line between man and machine is essentially erased.
I mean, for you listening, imagine finding the exact tool or instrument or role you were meant for, perfectly tailored to your unique quirks after a lifetime of searching. It's wild.
It's destiny. The sword wasn't forged for his hand, but his hand evolved to perfectly grip the exact hilt they spent 17 years designing.
But to really understand why the name synchro is so soul-stirring today, we have to rewind to where the synchro phenomenon began, long before the Beta machine ever existed.
We have to turn to the source document and travel back to December 4th, 1997.
Take us there.
To the town of Gorliz, situated squarely on the rugged coastline of the province of Biscay in the Basque Country of northern Spain.
Beautiful country.
It is, but the specific geological and meteorological realities of this environment are absolutely crucial to his development. Basque winters are unforgiving.
Yeah, when we talk about learning to ride, or even just developing basic motor skills as a child, environment is everything.
Everything.
And I want to paint a vivid audio picture for you. Imagine a child growing up not on flat, forgiving pavement or, manicured dirt tracks. We are talking about jagged, precipitous limestone crags.
And heavy, damp winds blowing a constant barrage of salt spray and Atlantic moisture directly onto that limestone.
The friction coefficient of those Basque coastal rocks is notoriously erratic, right?
Exactly. Limestone, when it's battered by acidic sea spray and constant rain, it develops this highly polished, incredibly slick surface.
Like ice.
But inconsistent ice. 1 inch of rock might offer adequate grip, while the next inch, coated in a microscopic layer of algae and sea moisture, offers absolutely zero traction.
So imagine you are a toddler, developing your baseline sense of balance, your proprioception, and your vestibular system.
Most kids develop these systems on stable ground.
Right. Their brains learn that the Earth is largely predictable. If I place my foot here, it will hold my weight. But Jaime's baseline was established in an environment where instability is the default state.
And that is a critical neurodevelopmental point. From the moment he learned to walk, his central nervous system was subjected to a hyperdynamic environment.
His brain was forced to constantly, rapidly calculate microadjustments.
Yes. Weight distribution, center of gravity, foot placement, just to navigate his own backyard. The damp winds and precipitous crags described in the text didn't just make him tough in some vague sense.
Right, it wasn't just character building.
No, they fundamentally wired his motor cortex to process highly variable tactile feedback at an accelerated rate.
It's like a forge. If you want to forge a sword that won't break, you need intense heat and heavy blows. The damp winds and crags were James' forge.
His brain learned to thrive in a state of continuous, unpredictable slip.
And the text argues that this harsh nature instilled not only fortitude, but the courage to challenge the impossible. Because if you hesitate on those wet Basque rocks, if you overthink your foot placement, your center of gravity stalls, and you fall.
The environment actively punishes conscious deliberation. It rewards pure, instantaneous intuition.
Total commitment.
Right.
And it was in this exact unforgiving environment that a toddler first met a machine, sparking a phenomenon that adults just couldn't believe.
Right, which brings us to the gas boy.
Yes, at 3 years old. Before he could even articulate full sentences clearly, his father, Jaime Busto, puts him on a 50cc motorcycle.
A tiny machine, but still a machine.
Now, I'm looking at this from a purely biological and developmental standpoint, and it frankly boggles my mind.
Why is that?
Well, a 3-year-old's amygdala, the fear center of the brain, should be firing on all cylinders the second a 2-stroke engine fires up between their legs.
Oh, the sensory overload alone should trigger a massive fight-or-flight response.
Exactly. We are talking about severe acoustic assault, intense mechanical vibration, the smell of exhaust, and the sudden, unnatural application of forward momentum.
It's terrifying for a toddler.
The human self-preservation instinct is hardwired to reject that level of chaotic sensory input. So here's where it gets really interesting. How is a 3-year-old bypassing that deeply ingrained biological directive?
Because the source text explicitly states there is an absence of fear.
Right. So is synchro a physical trait or is it a psychological one? Is it a physiological mutation in his fast twitch muscle response, or is his brain just fundamentally miscategorizing the nature of the machine?
It is almost certainly the latter, tied directly to the concept of body schema integration.
Okay, break that down for us.
In neurobiology, we study how the brain maps the physical boundaries of the body. When you become highly proficient with a tool, say a tennis racket or a paintbrush, your brain eventually stops treating it as an external object.
It maps it as an extension of your own limb.
Exactly. The spatial awareness of the tool becomes integrated into your own proprioceptive map.
But tool integration usually takes thousands of hours of conscious, repetitive practice.
Yeah.
You have to overcome the clumsiness of the foreign object first.
Usually, yes. But the source text provides a highly specific, revealing detail. It says that the moment young Jaime placed his feet upon the footrests, he accepted the thrum of the engine as his own heartbeat.
Wow.
He understood the traction of the tires as though the sensation were felt through the very soles of his feet. What we are seeing is an instantaneous, anomalous integration of the machine into his body schema.
That is staggering. For Jaime, the intense mechanical vibration of the 50cc engine wasn't processed by his brain as a threatening external force.
No, it was processed as an internal pulse.
Because his vestibular system was already hyper-adapted to the chaotic feedback of the Basque rocks. The erratic vibration and momentum of the motorcycle didn't register as danger. It registered as a familiar language.
The machine became the new medium through which he navigated the instability he was already accustomed to. When the rear tire of the gas boy slipped on a wet rock, his brain didn't process it as, the vehicle I'm sitting on is losing traction.
It processed it as, my rear foot is slipping.
Yes, and his central nervous system deployed the exact same automatic micromuscular corrections it would use if he were walking.
This is why the local riders watching him used that specific quote, "That boy is dancing on the bike."
They weren't just being poetic, they were observing a biomechanical reality.
Yeah, because when you are learning to ride, you are stiff. You're fighting the gyroscopic forces of the wheels. You're bracing against the acceleration.
But dancing implies a fluidity, a rhythm where you're moving with the physical forces, not against them.
The cognitive middleman, the part of the brain that says the bike is leaning, I must shift my weight to compensate, was entirely eliminated.
And that elimination of the cognitive middleman is the very definition of the first synchro. It is the root of the phenomenon.
But as Jaime grew, the bikes got bigger and way more dangerous. You'd think the synchro would break, right?
You would think so, yes. But it didn't break. It evolved.
Which brings us to scaling the synchro, defying physics. Mentored by his father Javier and the veterans of the local trials community, Jaime starts moving up the engine capacities.
Right, he goes from the 50cc to an 80cc and then to the full-size 125cc machine.
Now, for anyone tracking the physics of this progression, an increase in engine capacity in a trials bike fundamentally alters the dynamic equation of the machine. It isn't just about the bike having a higher top speed.
Far from it, top speed is largely irrelevant in trials. What matters is torque, inertia, and unsprung mass.
Exactly. When you move up to a 125cc, the engine block is heavier, altering the center of gravity,
The gyroscopic forces generated by the larger crank and flywheel are significantly stronger.
which actively resists the rider's attempts to lean or pivot the bike. And most importantly, the power delivery of the torque curve becomes exponentially sharper.
When you twist the throttle on a 125cc two-stroke, the hit of the power band is violent.
It wants to rip the handlebars right out of your grip and spin the rear tire instantly.
Logically, one would expect that as the machine becomes larger, heavier, and more unwieldy, the pure, childlike synchronization would begin to fracture.
Right, the sheer physical dominance required to manage the increased unsprung mass should force the rider to rely more on muscular strength and less on intuitive flow.
You expect to see him start wrestling the machine.
But the source text notes the exact opposite. Surprisingly, with every increase in capacity, the precision of his synchro only sharpened.
He didn't just survive the transition to the bigger bikes, he dominated, sweeping the local championships.
And the text gives us a crucial insight into how he managed this physical contradiction. It breaks down the specific techniques.
It says he doesn't just ride through a section.
No, he reads the shape of the rocks, feels the dampness of the earth, and brings the machine's output into perfect synchronicity with the terrain.
This highlights the core difference between Jaime's approach and brute force riding. He isn't imposing the 125cc engine's will upon the environment.
It makes me think of a maestro conducting an orchestra.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right, he's not just playing an instrument loudly. A true maestro is reading the acoustics of the room, the damp earth, the jagged rocks, and tuning the engine's output to match the environment perfectly.
That is a phenomenal analogy for throttle and clutch control in trials. The throttle, the clutch, the brake levers, these are his instruments. The wet, irregular Basque limestone is his acoustic space.
And think about this for a second. How often do you, listening to this, fight your environment instead of synchronizing with it?
It's human nature to resist.
It is. But Jaime's secret was working with the treacherous Basque terrain, not against it. If a rock is coated in that slick, salty Basque moisture, aggressively dumping the clutch on a 125cc will instantly break traction.
The tire will spin, and you fail the section.
But Jaime isn't just reacting to the slip after it happens. Because of his synchro, he is anticipating the exact friction coefficient of the rock face.
And he is feathering the clutch and modulating the RPMs to deliver the precise amount of kinetic energy the rock can accept without breaking traction.
He's tuning the output to match the environment perfectly, in real time.
He orchestrates a collaboration between the rubber of the tire, the violent pulse of the combustion engine, and the stone itself.
All while managing the increased gyroscopic forces of the larger engine block as if they were merely an extension of his own internal balance system.
It's the pinnacle of environmental adaptability.
And this incredible talent was brewing exactly when Spain was entering a legendary era of the sport.
Yes, the early 2000s. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Spain was heading toward a true golden age of trials.
We're talking about legendary champions like Takahisa Fujinami.
And more importantly, the absolute titan of the sport, Tony Bu.
Tony Bu basically rewrote the physics of what a human being could do on two wheels.
His style was incredibly explosive, heavily reliant on physical dominance and raw power to launch the bike over unimaginable obstacles.
So when you have a figure like that dominating the global stage, the immense pressure on a young Spanish prodigy growing up in those shadows must have been astronomical.
Every scout, every team manager is looking at you, expecting you to be the next iteration of Bu.
The psychological burden of that expectation usually destroys young athletes.
It forces them into imitation. They try to adopt the dominant champion's style, even if it runs counter to their own physiological strengths.
They try to out-muscle the bike like Bu, resulting in spectacular crashes and burnout.
But the source text makes a point to emphasize James' divergence. While he respected the path trodden by those giants, he didn't try to outmuscle their legacy.
He sought to rewrite the legacy with his own unique weapon, his synchro.
He doubled down on his specific brand of zero-latency intuition.
And this brings us to what might be my favorite description in the entire source document. It describes Jaime as someone who converses with the machine.
A conversation requires a two-way, continuous exchange of complex information.
Exactly. And the text expands on this, stating that the engine's revs, the travel of the suspension, and the minute engagement of the clutch create an illusion for the spectator that the bike is wired directly into his nervous system.
It's an illusion of pure integration.
When we watch him ride, are we watching an athlete or are we watching a cyborg?
The integration is so flawless, it appears cybernetic.
I mean, the mechanical elements of the bike literally acting as synapses in Jaime's brain. When he drops off a massive ledge, the suspension fork compressing isn't just a metal tube sliding into another metal tube filled with oil.
To his brain, it is cartilage flexing in his own knee.
The tactile feedback of the clutch plates dragging against each other isn't mechanical friction. It is sensory data traveling up the digital nerves of his own fingers.
This is how he achieves the zero latency we discussed earlier. In a standard rider, the bike kicks out on a loose rock. The vestibular system detects the shift. The brain processes the loss of balance, and the muscles fire to correct it.
And that processing lag is where mistakes happen.
But because the bike's mechanics act as synapses in Jaime's brain, the tactile data of the tire slipping and the muscular correction of the throttle hand occur simultaneously.
The bike and the boy from Gorliz function as a single, fluid entity reacting instantly to the Basque winds and rocks.
And all of this childhood preparation, this yearning for perfect harmony with the supreme two-stroke machine he had yet to meet.
It brings us crashing back to the miraculous news of today. March 2026. The return of the king.
Bringing the narrative full circle.
The seeds sprouting amongst the rocks of Gorliz have fully bloomed. Jaime has finally encountered his fated machine.
The Beta SINCRO. The convergence of two entirely separate yet perfectly parallel evolutionary tracks.
I mean, think about the sheer goosebumps you get when the universe just aligns. That's what the world of trials is feeling right now with the synchro rate between Jaime and the new Beta.
It transcends standard sports journalism. It is the culmination of a lifelong yearning.
The source states that in the boy's eyes lay a yearning for perfect harmony with the supreme two-stroke machine he was yet to meet.
And highlight the poetry of this moment. The machine was waiting for him just as he was waiting for it. The 17-year wait for this Beta model matches the exact timeline of Jaime's rise to the pinnacle of the world stage.
It's an alignment so precise it borders on the mystical. So what does this all mean?
It means this isn't just a writer signing a contract.
No, it is the realization of a destiny written in the Basque winds in 1997. It is the story of a boy who never knew fear, finally finding the metal heart that beats in perfect time with his own.
We are witnessing the absolute apex of the human-machine interface.
To briefly recap this journey, we went from a fearless 3-year-old on a 50cc gas boy dancing on a bike in the harsh Basque crags to the historic 2026 union with the Beta SINCRO, a legendary machine 17 years in the making.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought that builds on everything we've discussed about the concept of synchro.
Go ahead.
If a piece of machinery, designed by engineers over 17 years, perfectly matches the intuitive childhood talent of one specific man from Gorliz who really designed the Beta SINCRO.
Oh, no.
Did Beta build the machine for Jaime, or did Jaime's sheer existence and yearning inevitably force the universe to manifest this machine into reality?
That is heavy.
Yeah.
Is it a triumph of engineering precision, or is it an inexplicable manifestation? The line is entirely blurred.
It really is.
Thank you so much for coming along with us on this incredible deep dive today, seeking out those synchro moments in your own life. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Listen, chain of wind is blowing from the Atlantic born. On in the cracks, had 1997. Biscay, no fear, just the thrum of the engine in my soul. Now you initiate synchro. Gorliz, boy out with the mud on the shoes. 3 years old, baby, nothing to lose. Hobby Earth gave me the keys to the beast. 50cc set the spirit release. Feet on the rest, watch the Prodigy dance. Not a machine, not a part of a man. Synchro locked, we are moving to one. The Basque Prodigy fire has only begun. Be the rock, feel the earth, I feel the rain. Breathe in the grip, oh wow, I'm numb in the pain. Oh, wide to the nerve, wide to the brain. Wide to the nerve. visa. Tony Dice back the name, but the Basque Country was changing the game. It is all about riding out, it is how you talk. Progressing with metal, big while others just walk. Suspension is moving, it is under my skin. The session is open, let the synchro begin. Synchro, synchro, heartbeat racing, synchro, synchro, heartbeat racing, synchro, synchro. History chasing, Beta on the red line. Rate 2020C, two-stroke rhythm, Beta get in the fix. Synchro, synchro, synchro. Man the machine, synchro. Living a dream. Death winds a cold night's bronze, Biscay soul, indomitable spirit, new taking control. Physics is a lie, lock balance is the truth. The legend of Gorliz, put the fire of youth. Wait for the click, click, wait for the snap, snap. Prosper, flip, put the world on the map. Block the clock, feel the rhythm in the bone. I am the king. Every opponent two-stroke flow. 2026, ain't a faded encounter. Beta SINCRO, Beta came. Blind the world's new hunter. Rewrite the legacy and rewrite the past. Fast blood pumping, Martin, we're moving fast. Synchro, synchro, perfect harmony. Synchro, synchro, set the machine free. Gorliz to the world, but can you feel the heat?